I'm gonna go over the welcome section of your class really quick. It's very simple to make. Usually this is pre-made in the course shell, but just in case you don't have it, wanted to talk about what you should include in there and kind of the different options you have. So this is the introduction to the class. So first and foremost, you should have the course name as well as the course description. These should both match exactly as it is on the course syllabus. If you don't have this information, you can reach out to your program director to get it. After this, it's very helpful to have a course intro. And there's a couple different ways this can be done. It can be written out or it can be recorded. So here's an example of a course intro that was pre-recorded for students to come in and watch for an online class. Following the course intro, I'm just going to look at a couple different classes here. You'll see you have your professional intro, your faculty intro, your instructor intro. So this is a professional bio. As you write these, this is again the introduction, the first introduction that the student is going to have of you. So you want it to be informative, but also to keep it a little brief. It's helpful for you to write it in the third person. The reason for that is it's something that you can then use in other formats with other organizations or professional organizations or in other locations. Easy to share if you're going to be doing a presentation or a lecture. It's a lot easier to share it that way in the third person. And also it is aimed at the students, so make sure you're not using too much industry professional jargon. Make the language accessible to them. Don't overuse acronyms or shortcuts or nicknames for things that they may not know. So you include your bio, you have your faculty bio, so feel free to keep it engaging. You want to include your professional experience so that students understand why you're teaching the class. This goes along with your specific interests in teaching and in the profession, as well as any research interests you might have. You want to have a quick narrative on your education, degrees, licenses, certifications, anything else that might be industry specific towards the class that you're teaching. You want to also put any professional organizations you're actively involved in. This can be professional societies, volunteer societies, nonprofit organizations, whatever it might be that's relevant to the course you're teaching. Through this, with your education, research interests, feel free to share publications and presentations, but don't turn it into a list of all the places you've been. You want to keep it to the most impactful ones and just let them know that there's other things you've done as well. Please also feel free to include some of your personal information. This is your introduction to the students. So we want them to connect with you, not just on an academic level, but a little bit of a personal level. So feel free to share any information you feel comfortable. That might help the students connect with you, help the students feel more comfortable approaching you. So you can talk about your hobbies, your family, pets, whatever it might be. Feel free to use different ways to try to connect with a student to see what they respond to best. And it's also helpful to end with kind of your experience as a student, your experience when you were a student, as well as your experience getting to where you are right now. So they see the hard work you have to put in, so it models it for them. So they understand the hard work that they're going to have to put in. If you have any professional sites, profiles, publications, presentations, feel free to list them at the end or include links. Maybe your LinkedIn account, but not your Instagram, not your Facebook, not any personal social media. But this is what you can include in your professional bios. After your bio, you'll see you'll have the first discussion post. This is typically non-graded, and this will be basically an introduction. It can be as simple as introduce yourself, tell us about yourself, but also try to recognize that students might get that question in every single class. So to avoid them just copying and pasting it and really kickstart that engagement, feel free to add different topics. Maybe a topic that's still general where they're introducing themselves, but it's something related to the class or something related to their overall growth. So here we have an example of an introductory discussion post, but it's a growth mindset. So they're asking them to describe their growth as a student and kind of the growth they want to have as a grad student, and how they can do this in different formats and kind of what a growth mindset is. This way, they're still talking, they're still introducing themselves, but we're giving them actually something else to talk about that might be relevant to them. I especially love this one, the share your self-affirmations, where students can share their self-affirmations that can then be used, where students can share their self-affirmations that then the instructor can use in the feedback to help encourage positivity and motivation in the students. So you had any unique ideas for the introduction post, feel free to put that there. We also want to make sure that there's a folder here that has class resources. Here, the class resources are pretty standard and typical. This should be in all courses. So if you don't have these, ask your program director or check some of the other classes you might have, and you can move these over here in the sharing cart. We want to see the reference guide for APA, assignments, discussion, rubrics. If you have rubrics, portfolio project rubrics. So these are specific to the grad programs. So your programs might have general ones. So ask your program directors for those. We also want to have the course syllabus, which is a file, which you can add. Same thing, program director, program assistant can help you with those. In this welcome section, also include any additional items you want the students to know or understand that will help support them through the course. So for example, here we have the use of ethical AI. This is a video and some written content as well. But if you have a syllabus addendum, you can add this here. If you have specific course policies that have been approved by your program director, you can add these here. If you have general stuff you want to share with the students, tips on being a student, tips on time management, anything that would help them be successful at the beginning of the class to help prepare them, you can add this here, a calendar of events, whatever it might be. Even here, surveys, we posted some surveys. This is actually for the next course to help us understand the students' research experience as they get into a research class. So you can even include surveys to evaluate the students' experiences, their thoughts, what they feel. So it can help you design your class to better suit and address and engage these students. Now that we understand some of the very basic aspects that go into this welcome section of the class, let's go over how to create one. Here I have a blank class that has, here I have a class that's being built. It's very basic, and we're using, now that we understand what goes into this first section, the welcome section of the course, let's see how we can build one. We have a blank class for the most part that we can use. Typically, when you start a class, it'll have some sections already, but here we're going to add a section. So we're going to turn editing on, and we're going to open up what section is here. And at the very bottom, we're going to see add topics. We're going to click on that. Let's just drop this. We can see this. I want to move this topic up. So if you hover over this white space, you can see the arrows come up, and you can just drag it to where you want it to go. So I want it to go, it's not letting me go above general. All right, now that we know what goes into this first welcome section, let's make one. The easiest way to do this is adding this section to the sharing cart, and then when you get into the new class, just pasting it into this first section, and then going in and editing each object. But let's look at making one from scratch in this section, in this course here, and adding this stuff here. So typically when you start a new class, there'll be 4 sections that are pre-made. In this case, I deleted some of the other ones through some of the training, so let's work on this. First things first, I'm going to turn edit mode on. And if you were to use the sharing cart, you would come down to the sharing cart, click on the duplicate, and bring it into the bottom of the section, which would then copy the section. And we'll edit this first section and modify stuff one by one. It's worth noting that to add a section, at the bottom of each section, there'll be an add topic, which allows you to add a new topic or a new section, which can be moved around. So if we add a couple, you can see we can, in this white space, you see the arrows point up, we can see where we want to add it. The only thing that we can't do is we can't move this very first section. It's kind of static here at the top, and all these other ones we can drag around as we see fit. And at least in this case, automatically renaming, but you can name them however you want by clicking on the pencil and typing it in and clicking enter. And then we see we can move them around however we want. But we're going to work off of this section, so we're going to change this to the welcome section. And we see we have a few items here that we're not going to need, but I'm going to need them later. So let me just move them to another section, which can be done very easily. So we have our welcome section, and I just have another one open as an example of what we need to add. So first things first, we're going to put our introduction. So we come here and click on edit section. We have the title here, and here we're going to put the summary, which is going to simply be the course number and course title, and right below that, course description. Click save, changes, and now we see we have our introduction there. The next thing we want to do is add our faculty bio. So to do this, I'll add an activity, and typically for these, I'll add it as a page. And for the titles, you want them to be kind of description with action verbs, so it triggers the students to let them know what they need to do. So here, I'm going to read about Dr. Ramos in his faculty bio. Description, I'm not going to put anything here. And here in the page content, if you refer to the faculty bio guidelines, you can add an image of yourself. If you feel you can add an image of yourself by clicking the add image. You can add a video introduction as well, and you can type alter introduction as well. I won't do that just now. But feel free to read the faculty guidelines on the faculty bio guidelines in order to understand at least what you want to put in here. The settings, you shouldn't really have to edit any of the settings. Typically, the only one I'll do is activity completion, where it shows it's complete whenever a student views it. This is just to help me track to see which students are engaging in the class and what parts of the class they're engaging with. Everything else, I'm not going to touch, and save and return to course. Since it's making me write something, leave myself what to do. By doing this here, put it in the description, save and return. When I come back to the class, it lets me know I still need to do this. After the faculty bio, we're going to do our first classroom networking opportunity. So this is going to be creating a discussion activity, which in Moodle is called a forum. So in order to do this, again, one of the options is to add it to a sharing cart and copy it in. Let's make one from scratch. So add an activity or resource. We're going to click on forum. We're going to put the forum name. In this case, it's going to be an introductory forum. It's an analytics class. There's going to be math discussions involved, so I want them to engage in reversing negative self-talk. So I'm not going to fill in the items here, but here you would put in the discussion board prompt or here's introductory discussion prompt, which I'll add later. You can display it on the course if you want. Then you choose the type of forum type you're going to have. So as there's math in this course, or at least discussion of math, people are typically very resistant to math. So I'm going to ask the students to recognize the negative self-talk they have about their experiences with math. I don't like math, I'm not good at math, I hate math, and flip it into a positive, growing goal. So instead of I hate math, it would be I want to be better at math. So I'm going to have them identify these things and kind of engage in that reversing negative self-talk themselves. So I'll add that later. But when you come into the forum type, you can choose from different types of forums. The one that's easiest and that I would recommend, at least for this type of discussion, is a standard forum for general use. In this case, if you read the descriptions, it lets us know what each type of forum is. Standard forum for general use is open and anyone can post at any time. The other one I like to use is Q&A forum, which means that the student has to post something before they see what everybody else posted. Those are the two that I typically use. The rest, I don't really use those much. But feel free to explore them, see what you like. In this case, standard forum for general use. Availability, like any due date or cutoff date, I'm going to leave it open. In this case, attachments and Word accounts, there's no need for them to upload anything, so there's no uploads not allowed. No attachments, display Word count, yes. Subscriptions and tracking, don't change these, usually use the default where the students are automatically subscribing. They can choose if they want to be removed, and also read tracking just lets them see which ones they've already read in case they need to go in and respond. Discussion locking, I don't touch that. Again, it closes it after a certain time, but if you have a cutoff date and availability, you don't need that. Post threshold for blocking, you don't need to worry about this. It's just about if there's a amount of time after something's been posted, can they comment on it? Whole form grading, this is where it will be important for you to enter what type of grade you want to put in here. Since this is an introductory item, I'm going to leave the grade type as none, so it's not in the grade book. But if this was an actual discussion post that's going to be entered for the grade, I would put then a point. Type grade with the maximum grade of 100, simple direct grading, which means you're entering the grade. If you have a rubric, you can enter a rubric, which can then let you modify the rubric, at least for now, simple direct grading. Category, in this case, I don't have a category. This would go under learning activities. I assume you set up the grade book, but I would put this under learning activities. There's no grade to pass. A default setting, leave that as no. Ratings, I don't use this. This is a different way to grade the forums, but it's just easier, more straightforward for the faculty and the students to use the full forum gradings. Other common module set settings, don't really touch this. If you want to hide it, you can hide it. Restrict access, not really necessary in this case. Activity completion, this one I do typically change because I do again want to see how many students are completing this when I run certain reports. So here I'll put show activity is complete when conditions are met. So the students have to view it. I don't require them to get a grade to have completed the activity, but I do want them to create one discussion and create 2 replies. So they're making their own discussion and they're replying to 2 other students. And then you can put when you expect to have it done by. Tags, I don't add anything. Competencies, we don't have those added in either. So here's the forum. I'll enter the prompt later. Save and return to course. So now we have our negative self-talk. But what I'll do here Just give myself my note to do that. Well, that's really quick. I can do a forum for your first activity. The class resources. The class resources is going to be a folder. So that one you can easily copy with the sharing cards. Here I'll create it. So just see how a folder is made. I'll add an activity or resource, and I'll click on the folder. Here, the name, class resources, description. I'm not going to put a description. And then here we can add the files, and I'm just going to drag and drop them. I have them all saved on my computer. Highlight them, drag them, so all the files are here. Here you can show if you want it on a separate page or inline on the course page. Usually I leave this as a separate page, that way the course page isn't too cluttered. I don't really touch any of the other settings other than the activity completion. Again, show activity complete when students view the activity. Save and return to course. So now we have our class resources. For any of these activities, if we wanted to change them, if you just click on these 3 dots there and click on edit settings, it'll take you into the edit mode for the activity. In this case, I want to make sure I show myself to the to-do there. But you can edit the settings, edit kind of anything from the course activity, and you can come in to edit additional settings that might be specific to that activity. The thing I'm going to do is add the course syllabus. So the course syllabus is standard and approved. The course syllabus is standard and approved, and it should not be modified. So if you have one that's different than what's officially approved by our accrediting bodies, if we have a review, we could get a finding for that. So just confirm with your program director that the course syllabus you have is the most recent, so they can help you change it or get you the most recent copy if need be. But in order to add the syllabus to the course, it's very easy. It's a file, it's a PDF file, so we're going to add an activity or resource, and we're going to add a file. Here, I'm going to put the title, just the course code and course syllabus. And here we can add a file, which is just going to be drag and drop. If you want to put a description, you can join in the page, but typically just the name, file. Again, none of these, I don't change any of these settings except for activity completion, show as a complete when students view the activity, save and return the course. And now when they click on it, it'll open up the PDF of the course syllabus. And then after this, you can add, if you have a syllabus addendum, you can add the file. Here you can add additional links or information relevant to the course, but at the very least, you want to add this information for the students to see, as well as making sure your contact information with your appointment times are there.